Gate 8 is conceived by the Harris family and Jeff Harris as a legacy building to with one purpose in mind, which is to supercharge philanthropy, social enterprise, and the next generation of Australia's great entrepreneurs. The building name Gate 8 is a nod to the world famous Melbourne cricket ground, which is next door to us. And if you live in Melbourne, you'll often hear somebody say, "I'll meet you at Gate 6" or "I'll meet you at Gate 7." And the name Gate 8 is to say we'd like to welcome you and meet you at Gate 8. Well, when the building was first designed, the intention was to have the highest class fit out as well as the highest class technology. Technology all the way through the building from the tenant side through to the base build systems. Making sure we've got the best quality technology from the base build side ensures that when we open the building, which we're very close to doing, that me and my team can spend more time on proactively manage the building and understanding, what works and what doesn't work in the building without being reactive and responding to issues when they arise. And that means my team can focus on ensuring the building experience is maximized rather than spending time on fixing problems day to day and having to employ a big team to run the site.
Hey friends, if you like the Nexus podcast, the best way to continue the learning is to join our community. There are 3 ways to do that. First, you can join the Nexus Pro membership. It's our global community of smart building professionals. We have monthly events, paywall deep dive content, and a private chat room, and it's just $35 a month. Second, you can upgrade from the Pro membership to our courses offering. It's headlined by our flagship course, The Smart Building Strategist, and we're building a catalog of courses taught by world-leading experts on each topic under the Smart Buildings umbrella. Third, and finally, our marketplace is how we connect leading vendors with buyers looking for their solutions. The links are below in the show notes, and now let's go on to the podcast. Welcome to the Nexus podcast. This is the latest episode in our series diving into case studies of real-life deployments of smart building technologies. And I emphasize real life because we're not here to create some sort of fluff story. We never do that. We're here to share lessons from a few leaders from a specific project so that others can put these lessons to use in their smart buildings programs and projects. So today we have a story coming from Harris Capital, a fund management and investment company located in Melbourne, Australia. And I have George Garth here, who's General Manager, Property and Operations at Harris Capital. George, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, James. Yeah, George Garth, as you said, GM of property here at Harris Capital. And one of the key components of my role is delivering Gate 8 here in East Melbourne in Victoria, Australia. And both bringing the building alive and then running it at a high level once we're open for the years to come. Previously, I've worked with the Harris family in another business, which is a co-working and flex office space. So I spent a lot of time on the tenant side fit out, and so I've come to work with the Harris family and the Gate 8 team to deliver the full building to all the Harris related companies and partners.
Absolutely. This building sounds so cool. It reminds me of this building in Denver here where I'm from called the Alliance Center. And it's only for sustainability focused small entrepreneurial companies. And it's also a very high performance building as well. So it's almost like a sister building. It's also small as well. It's only like 40,000 square feet. But for those of you that are listening to this, you want to check out a case study on that building. We'll put that in the show notes as well. To sort of show a little American Australian synchronicity here.
Absolutely. And look, to touch on one of the exciting things about this building too is it's a mix of both commercial businesses and social enterprise businesses. Gate 8 Level 4 is actually being donated to 3 non-for-profits to reposition themselves here at East Melbourne to run their operations out of here. And so having that mix of commercial businesses and social enterprise is exciting for me and everyone in the building.
All right, let's run through a couple rapid fire questions so people understand sort of the context of this case study. So first of all, people need to understand that this is a new construction building. It's solo in terms of there's not really a portfolio. So everything we're talking about today is just focused on this new construction project. Next question is sort of like, who's your vendor team? We're going to bring on some helpers here that are from the vendor team, but just give us an overview of who you're working with to create this smart building.
From my perspective, the first one of the first key partners here was NDY, and led by Matthew Taylor here to design the building all the way from the fit out, and in particular the technology that sits underneath it, the tenant side network, which obviously Wi-Fi network and AV and those sorts of things. But then, for the context of here today, super important is all the base build systems as well that are all through the building. So NDY is a key partner there, and then of course in terms of the design, and then in terms of delivering it, Justin Anders from COMMSecurity has led us there and has been a huge help throughout that process, and a key partner for us there too in terms of delivering the design. And then of course the platform, which underpins everything we do here in terms of delivering the base build system, is KODE, which they've been great partners to work with. The technology, it's the first time I've dealt with it, and super excited to really get it, or not just launched, but flying.
Totally. All right. And then give us an idea of, so you mentioned the building's almost complete. When did you start this process, and when do you see this sort of ending?
So the actual property was purchased back in 2018 with plans to have it developed in a couple of years' time, but of course COVID and the pandemic and lockdown slowed us all down, and so it's really been probably here in Melbourne since mid 2022 that we've been able to ramp the project back up. In that time, NDY has been engaged quite a bit as part of the design process, and then I've worked with Justin now quite closely since late last year. And we're right there. So the building is partially complete at the moment, not quite all the way there, but in the coming weeks will it'll all be pulled together and be fully operational.
Okay, let's bring in our friends then. So we have Matthew Taylor here from NDY. Matthew, can you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about, for those people that don't know NDY, what do you guys do?
Yeah, I'm Matt Taylor from NDY. So NDY is an engineering consultancy in Australia, across Australia. I am the smart buildings lead for the state of Victoria. So we cover off everything technology really, but that also includes things like control systems, ICT, AV, security systems. So yeah, quite a broad team.
Yeah, and one of the things we'll unpack a little bit is when you guys are doing this smart building stuff. We're usually talking about bigger buildings, portfolios of bigger buildings usually. And what's unique about this one is it's about, for those of you in the U.S., about 100,000 square feet. I don't know what that is square meters, but less
10,000,
than that, something like that. Yeah, 10,000. So it's a small building. Typically, don't get this level of intelligence in something like this. So we'll unpack like what that meant in the design and construction process. Next, I want to bring in Justin Anders from COMMSecurity. Justin, can you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what COMMSecurity does?
Yeah, sure. Hello. Yeah, Justin Anders from COMMSecurity, a general manager. COMMSecurity is an access control and technology integration business. Been around for 5 to 6 years, and recently became Australia's certified channel partner with KODE Labs. I've been engaged with KODE Labs in my previous life as a smart building consultant, and then shifted across to be a integrator as I saw a niche in the market where services of integrating smart building platforms can really use a boost. So CommSecurity is predominantly an access control company, but the synergies between that, ICN and networks, and smart building platforms really intertwine together and can form a really good package to clients, builders, and when you have alignment with the whole delivery team, then you can get some really great outcomes.
Totally. And do you guys, Justin, do you go to market as a master systems integrator, or is that term?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So master systems integrator or a network systems integrator, we can provide all of those roles as part of our package for clients.
All right, so let's talk about this project. It sounds like it was a long time in the making, and we're getting close to the finish line here. I think the way I want to start this is with let's talk a little bit more about why we decided to diverge from the path of a typical 100,000 square foot office building in Australia. So Matt, maybe you can talk about like what would that building typically look like, and George kind of weigh in as well.
Yeah, look, I guess a building of this size tends to be done on lower budgets. It tends to be, a very focused construct and then leave and figure out the operations later. It's a very classic kind of model of delivering, smaller buildings where there's very little thought given to the technology. It's just about, getting services in there, and then that's the end of it, right? And so this building just it didn't need that. It operates very much like a kind of owner operator type building, and that operations piece, thinking about it from the start, I guess for a building of this size is super rare, but it's been a really awesome thing to do.
Yeah, and George, can you tell that story from your side? Like when did you make that decision to? It sounds like if I'm just reading between the lines, it sounds like you foresaw the need to operate this building on lower staff and lower labor than a typical building. So did you kind of make that decision to say, okay, we're going to supplement our lack of staffing with the technology here?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like Brad and I have worked together for some time, and myself in particular, like I mentioned earlier, I've been on the tenant side quite a bit and dealt with building owners and seen the issues that come with doing it, let's say, as per the status quo. So it's not only that, like being able to just manage a building better, but yes, once we're open and running, we want to be able to manage the building with fewer people, and be proactively managing the building, rather than reactive. Both as a building owner, but also just as Matt mentioned, a lot of our partner businesses in here as well. So it is somewhat of an owner operator style building, and being a multi-use building as well, from events on the ground floor, a food and beverage offering on the top floor, and commercial use through the middle. It's not just sort of one set of problems that are likely to arise. It could be a full spectrum. So having all the systems integrated into a system like KODE, meaning that we can be on top of everything before it becomes a real problem, rather than later on. And so going into the design, we wanted to make sure that we had the technology to do that.
Absolutely. What about the sustainability or energy performance outcomes or goals that you were trying to hit as well? Is there anything there to cover?
Yeah, absolutely. So as part of the fit out, we are achieving a 6-star Green Star rating. And is that the right number, Justin? Yep. And then as part of the ongoing building, 5.5 neighbors rating. So sustainability is a big part of both the fit out and the ongoing operations as well, and it all ties back to, again, being able to manage the systems of the building as effectively as possible.
Totally. And I also wanted to pull in, you mentioned tenant experience or occupant experience earlier. Can you talk about like what it sounds like, if I'm reflecting what you said back to you, this is a very mission oriented building and you're trying to foster a certain environment for the tenants. Can you talk about like what that is and how technology can sort of play into that?
What this building is trying to achieve is to be a legacy building for the Harris Group of companies, as well as an icon in Melbourne. And I'll start from the aesthetic side because it sort of goes backwards from there. So when you enter the lobby, it's a grand lobby, double story. There's a huge auditorium on one end, beautiful mezzanine. And then going up to the top floor on level 6 called Jollymont House, which I'm in now. One of the rooms here is fitted out like a library, like you can see. We've got this food and beverage offering and a terrace just behind me that overlooks the MCG. So that is the nature of the building that everyone that we wanted to deliver here. And so being able to, and then matching that with everything else that sits underneath it is super important.
I think cohesive user experience was a huge part of that story. So it was in a lot of the discussions from early days all the way through to when we're sat procuring the mobile app. it was about what's that user experience for people, whether it's through the smart lockers, whether it's through booking, spaces within the building. There's, the gym, there's the auditorium. How do you access those for, different tenants? The food and beverage space, how do you order your food? Can you do that through QR codes, through the app? Having that whole technology, I guess, experience thought through from the beginning was a really key thing, I guess, for the building, so that it doesn't matter who you are, whether you were just a visitor coming in, you've got visitor management systems, or whether you're in the co-working space, or whether you're a company associated with Harris Capital, in their space, you're having that same, experience in the building.
Totally. And Matt, can you talk about how your design process, and I say I mean, you guys probably had many different designers engaged across NDY for all the different, verticals in the building, but talk about your design process in terms of how are you trying to take those goals that George talked about? So basically operations, sustainability, user experience, tenant experience. How are you translating that into design docs, basically? What was that process like?
Big old journey. So I guess focusing on the technology piece, we try to not talk about technology at the start. So we try to talk about challenges, opportunities, the experience, try and understand how people are going to use the space first. And then we'll translate that into technology, largely because people come with, a set of preconceptions about what building technology can do. And we want to try and get those out of the first conversations and then start to bring in technology to do the best things it can. But you end up with an enormous list, which we did for this project. I had to look back. I think we had like over 100 different opportunities spread across user groups or personas for the building. So then obviously you go about the process of whittling that down. We condensed it into something that was the right price point and the right, set of priorities for this building eventually. And then we join the rest of the fray, doing the core of the design and the whole journey of, I guess, making sure that this is tightly weaved into all the other components of the design, which is always such a huge piece of delivering technology.
Yeah, totally. I'm sure Justin then helped out at that point, but I want to circle back to one thing you said around, let's just really ground this in the core user personas and use cases that you prioritize. So all of the 100 plus, opportunities you had, what are the core things? Because I feel like it gets kind of hand wavy sometimes when we talk about smart building platforms and all of that. I'd really love for you to just succinctly summarize, what are we doing smart building stuff for and who?
I guess key personas are going to be, firstly, facilities management team, which in this case is George, as one of his many hats. And then we've got the users of the building, so your typical users, the tenants using the building. Visitors is another key persona for us. So they're probably our three main personas for this building. We were also lucky enough to get some good input directly from Brad Harris in part of the process, which was really nice to have and get a really good eye into his vision for the building. And then it's just about how we improve those individual kind of persona experiences. So, the visitor one is visitor management systems. It's about how people are welcomed into the building. The facilities management one is really where we're driving through KODE Labs, having that kind of single picture of the entire building. But it's also our kind of point of integration for us integrating into the mobile app and sharing data with other systems. But George with his many hats, getting that single snapshot of how the building is now, combined with fault detection diagnostics, the analytic component, being able to actually tell them when things are actually wrong, is a key part of the strategy, just making life easier, right?
Yeah. So George, this is an interesting one because a lot of times on this podcast, I feel like we talk about use cases for users like you, but they're thinking about many buildings. It seems like you're just thinking about one building, but you're doing more jobs than people typically do. Can you talk about the different hats you're wearing and sort of build on what Matt's talking about in terms of how you're actually going to use the platform in your operational processes?
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of my role, it is, rather than being multiple properties, it is one person but multiple roles. So from the concierge to the office managers to the level 6 venue management, they're all part of my team. So that's all experience. From a tenant side IT network status position, that comes through to me as well, and our IT partners. We've got an app and a bunch of different comms channels that sort of ultimately comes under my wing as well. But of course, then just the facilities management and the day-to-day mechanics of running the building too, that comes to me. So what we want to be able to achieve is essentially have a team of people that can focus mainly on the experience and running the way people use the building, and have a smaller team running that FM side of the building. So in order to do that, we lean on technology.
So Matt, can you talk about all the different OT systems you wanted to integrate together, and sort of how they were then feeding into these different use cases?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the usual ones, your BMS, lighting control, emergency lighting, access control systems, CCTV, the ICT network itself, which we call ICN in Australia. And yeah, really pulling everything together in the building into a cohesive point of management. So, we do have systems that are connected in, like I think the lockers, that are not necessarily there to be, controlled and used through the platform, but having a central point of alarm management is super useful, right? So you're not having to log into 10 systems to find out what's gone wrong. So that's a huge part of it. And then that's very much the back of house component, the facilities management piece, and then a lot of the front of house user experience, with, from comms, as in, the pushing messaging through to building occupants all the way through to building access, is typically through the mobile app.
All right, so Matt, you packaged it, like basically all of these outcomes. You got use cases. You're trying to enable these different users like George to, do their jobs better. How did you then package that all into something that you could take to market and figure out what vendors you're going to select, what they're going to do, what teams there are, like that kind of thing? Tell us about that process.
Yeah, so fairly traditional process in that sense. We package everything up into specifications. We have all our technical requirements in there, but I think a key thing for us is making sure that the actual performance of the solution, the outcomes that we're looking to target are part of that. And then that went to market. So we went as a group to a builder, and they bought the trades. And a key thing for this solution was always going to be that ability to actually scale down, right? So lots of integrations, small scale building. How do you keep your price point from not ballooning comparative to the size of the construction project? And so I think going down a SaaS route was always going to be a favorable thing for a building like this. So software as a service. And another benefit there being, in the operations side, where you don't have to manually look after a set of technologies. You can wrap that under a single procurement, in the operations phase. That's what led us into, the journey with KODE, I guess. So they came through with the builder team. I actually moved to Australia from the UK, from London, about 3.5 years ago. And while KODE is quite new in the Australian market in relative terms, we've been using them in the UK. And so, we had that familiarity, knew the product, reasonably well. And it was a good fit for everything that the building needed.
Totally. And can you talk about the selection process? That's one of the things that our team has been really nerding out on recently as we keep building and building our marketplace product. But the ability for you as the consultant to view all of these different options, KODE's not the only one that does stuff like this. So how did you select and decide that KODE is the best partner for Harris?
It's a good question. And different approaches going to market, allow us different levels of control. In this case, it was everything was sat with the builder, right? So in theory, we had very little control over a specific selection. But especially working on a building of this size, you've got builders that don't even typically have a services manager, right? Let alone have someone who understands technology. And so they really wrapped us into that process to help them, to say, well, what is the best thing that we pick here? Can we use this product? Is this the right thing? And so we kind of, I guess, helped the builder through that process, and we ended up on it largely as the right price point, I think, and meeting all the requirements that we had in our specification. Because, I said before, the trick with these buildings is always going to be how do you scale down appropriately, and quite a hard thing to do, I think, for many businesses.
Yeah, and one of the fascinating things here, from my standpoint, just learning about this project for the first time, is you have a bunch of diverse requirements. So we've talked about integrating all of these into one single pane of glass. We've talked about FDD. We've talked about providing data to a user experience application. All of those things maybe in the old days, like might require them to happen across different platforms. But it seems like one value here is you could select one software vendor. They're checking all of the boxes. It feels like that you said when you laid out your use cases. Is that one of the things that happened here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're always piecing together more than one technology, I think, in a smart building project. But the integration platform is such a key part of it, right? And not just for the facilities team, but also from a technology architecture perspective, for allowing us to integrate vastly different sets of data into other systems, right? And so it's a real key kind of linchpin in the way the building is going to function.
Totally. Okay, so Justin, you guys came in with the builder then as a integrator and reseller of the software. Tell us about how you then got integrated into the project whenever this design phase sort of moved into the construction phase.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, COMMSecurity is, as under the builder, went in with the group package, right? Because we were appreciative that small building costs had to be really lean. So the way that an integrator can benefit from that and also be more competitive is to put more packages underneath their services or their company. So COMMSecurity was successful with the CCTV, the access control, the intercom, the ICN, and the smart building platform, where we've been dedicated to KODE now for quite some time. So along with the KODE team, it wasn't their typical sort of project deployment, because they're so used to 50 buildings and 2 million square feet, so to speak, that we sort of rationalized our approach and really focused in hard on what is the very black and white elements that needed to be delivered to comply with for the specification. So we didn't balloon our price out with expectations or assumptions, and we're quite clear in that response. To attend to every element within the spec. There was API integrations. There was a lot of traditional Tritium ingesting of points. The use of control, the use of being able to do new API integrations with access control systems. So a lot of these systems that KODE are now communicating with haven't been used by KODE because it's the Australian market, and we tend to use different products or the same functionality, but they're different. So this was a new journey for KODE that we sort of COMMSecurity took them on, and then we just started to cross over then the use cases with the advanced features of KODE's platform, because there's so many ways. Choose George 2,000 rules for fault detection. Which ones would you like to do? So again, to keep the efficiency, we had to really use the journey with NDY and Harris Capital to really refine it so everyone maintains their efficiency, and that's where all the costs kept in. So we were engaged, through the competitive tender process. The access control package was released a little early, so we were aware we're on the job site. And then as it rolled into the network and to the smart building platform, I was able to get my team, my secondary team into play, and we had the relationships with the builder, and then we started the design phase. And always remember the first meeting when I introduced and said, I'm the guy that's going to put your network in and get all of the data from all of the systems. And everyone's like, okay, right, not sure what that means. So, all right, let's go. And what's really a real good thing that's come out of this project is that all of the trades may not be fully aware of what a smart building platform is and or does, but once they got the understanding, they're all on board, and they're really eager to learn and follow the process, right? Because if you don't have a set process for this and it's not rigid, it can get all a bit messy and go sideways, and then that's when things can start turning a bit south, and you get inefficient. So so that was sort of like the introduction to myself into this project team, and then through the course as we've been going through, it's been quite a slog to get all of the systems on play, get all of the data into the system, execute on all of the integrations, and then at the right time we bring in George and Matt, which was November last year, where we said, righto, let's now have a look at what the KODE platform can do from a monitoring and a dashboard, and this is when we can start to really personalize based on what George is wanting to achieve in his operations. So there's a real lengthy process that you go through, rather than just doing, here's your 5 dashboard screens and here's your command buttons and here's your FDD rules. We take them on the journey, and with the guidance of Matt, overseeing technically the whole building side of it, and George from the operation front, we can now customize the KODE front end and interfaces even further than what it was originally proposed to do in the submission. And this is the level of service that I think that everybody in the Australian market is now expecting, that we take George and the client as early as possible to bring them along for the ride as the platform's being built, rather than just hand him the keys of the new car at the end of the show and then run away.
What would be an example of this in terms of something on George's to-do list that you guys are then customizing the KODE platform to make his to-do list easier or something like that?
Yeah, sure. So level 2 and 3 are a customized, the co-share working space, George, I believe. Yeah. Right. So what we're doing with that is that we're segment. So all of the building is coming into the KODE platform. Because level 2 and 3 is a co-share working space and it's a tenancy, we're carving out the KODE, all of the systems within that tenancy, and creating a subset of a dashboard, so you can effectively run and have an FM person or even George just monitor the status of the co-share working space. That drives a lot of income, and you want to make sure that all of the systems are performing so that everybody's productive in that workspace. So rather than George trying to filter through all of the different data sets and all the different dashboards and summary screens of this system or that system, we've personalized it down to just level 2 and 3, so he can be more responsive. He can look at his screen a couple of seconds, he can see all systems are operating as per normal, or, hey, I have an issue, and he can be a quicker, to get the faults fixed if there was anything like that to occur.
And for me, exactly right, where the rubber hits the road there is that, one, I don't want to only know about a problem when I hear a complaint, and two, I don't want to have a complex, like, identifying an issue and issue resolution. All the complexity can push back into the base build systems, and so what I get is the simple version of here's the problem, the simple and ideally hopeful simple version of here's how to fix it.
I think when fault detection and EMSs start to really turn on the dashboard screens, because you've got such a variety of how you can report those things, that knowing exactly which incidents within the KODE platform are going to be the ones that George needs to be sent the SMS and the email, rather than the things that can just, trickle along in the FM team. So there's a real prioritization of only notify George when there's a catastrophe problem, and let the building system handle the rest of the things by notifying the contractors for small and minor maintenance concerns. So it's a real guide there of, again, George's idea of what a category 1 alarm is a little different to what Matt's is, which might be different to mine. So if you don't go through that, journey together, then at the end of the day, if George isn't happy with, and it's not suited to his needs, then I wouldn't say it's a failure, but it hasn't hit the mark exactly. And that's I think what we have to really focus on when we're handing over smart building platforms and integrations that are so flexible like KODE.
Totally. And it feels a lot like I hear this a lot around, like, needing to get the integrator, in this case you guys, Justin, involved as early as possible. But it's almost like we're also going back the other way too, which is, Matt, you had this intent of the use cases that you guys put in the specs, those are not necessarily changing. It sounds like getting more specific and getting tailored to the actual human on the end. We start with user personas, which aren't real humans, and now we have our actual human that's showing up here to run this building. And so it's almost like then you're staying involved and saying, like, yeah, that meets the intent of the use case that I designed up front.
Absolutely. I mean, in the design phase, you may, if, you're in a lucky position, have access to, representatives from the operations team. You'll never have access to the actual operations team for that building, right? When you're designing it, they come in typically at a later stage. And so having that method of feeding all the way back again and saying, right, we've done what we think is the right thing so far as we can, but now we know the actual people who are going to be on the ground doing it, their preferences. Let's feed that back into the process. And so we'll always specify out for contractor workshops to be with the operations team for final setting of graphics. And we usually have, spare allowances for extra workflows and automations to happen that we can kind of draw down on for the purposes of making those final tweaks. Because, there'd be nothing more frustrating than going through all this effort, getting to the end of the process and someone going, I just don't really like it that much. I wish we'd done it slightly differently that way or slightly differently, this way. For the sake of just finishing off the process, it's so worth it.
I think there's another angle on it though too. So you've got certainly right, you write a theoretical specification, a set of words that can be interpreted to what a integrated platform or a set of systems needs to achieve at the end, that has to relate to a human or a team of humans in how they operate and use that platform. And I've never seen one person get 100% the operational use of how George would want to use the platform to the way that it's written when you wrote it a year and a half prior, right? So it's mandatory that you've got to bring all of those people through the whole journey. The missing piece of the puzzle is the builder and the other trades that may or may not be familiar with what data is, how things connect onto networks, and the use of a smart building platform. So while there's those elements, you've got to maintain, because if the BMS guy or the lighting guy can't put their system together properly, then you can't, you're almost an indirect casualty that your smart building platform won't achieve what it's supposed to achieve. So there's a whole piece of the puzzle where the trades are so critically important to not have to know what to do, but just to be able to listen and to work with us to follow the process, because we're trying to keep everyone efficient because we're all under time pressure. So we only want to do things once. So, and what was really happy around this job was that those trades were really willing to listen. They all put up their hand, I haven't really done this before, and we guided them through. Some, like the BMS and the electrical teams, certainly did know what to do. And, there's just a little bit of finessing, things like naming conventions and setting standards. And you made the point, getting the MSI or the NSI early onto a job is becoming more critical, because if they're setting the naming conventions and the standards of how systems have to be configured, then you don't want to be introduced into a project a year after it's all kicked off, because most of the trades are already on board, done their workshop drawings, and there's a whole lot of abortive works.
It's a good point as well. And I actually remember the specification specifically called for the MSI to be the first trade engaged by the builder, so that they could then review the other trade packages coming in to say, actually, what they're doing here is not going to meet the intent of this, right? Because people are unfamiliar. It didn't quite happen that way, but we still got an early engagement, right? And as you say, that journey is super important, because if it doesn't get baked into the program, into the builder's program at an early stage, then things are going to go south pretty quickly, right? You need the time to be able to deliver this effectively.
And that's the ability where I need my team to be all prepped and understanding of the different, there's the different way that we need to communicate with NDY in a real technical sense. There's a way that we need to communicate to George. And this is where CODE's helped me, because, CODE's done, 1,000 buildings plus. So they're so familiar with that process, in that they had the collateral and the information and the demos of the systems that they could then feed to me to make me efficient. So while I may be the person and or the face, the whole KODE team, overseas, both Kosovo and in Detroit, we're all supporting myself and my team in being able to get to, here's the right tool that we use. We use the MSI tool to, load up all of the collateral of all of the building systems, do all of the analysis. So, I had a team over in Kosovo working, 24/7, churning through all of the information to come back to ask the right questions to then progress us down to the next path. And if I didn't have that, and nobody saw that team, right? That's something that KODE and I work on to make everybody efficient. So I don't want to bring 30 people into a meeting. So, the KODE team there sitting, my silent partner almost, just really pulling through all of the info made my job a lot easier, that I could attend the time to spend to all of the front-facing members that would needed their help effectively to get this done.
Okay, cool. So we've walked through all of this. Let's talk about what's next. The building isn't fully handed over yet. So what do you guys need to do next?
So from the KODE Labs deployment phase, we're onboarding the last number of systems now. So API integrations are complete with the access control system and tested. The lighting control system is still to bring in the 4,000 data points into the KODE platform, and then to finalize the dashboards and the summary screens. And once that's done, we move then on to the advanced features of fault detection and functional test tool, and finalize the EMS. Once those dashboards are generated, then my team go back and with the trades and do a whole data validation of the individual physical devices. And then we have a slow handover process, like a soft launch with George, to get his team familiar with the platform and be part of that commissioning process with us. And as we're then moving through, to final completion of the platform, we bring Matt in to start his verification process and alignment and compliance. And then that way we're all finishing at the same time. George has 100% confidence. We've got Matt's endorsement. We've got the results. We've got the code platform live. His team's been using it. And then we can then probably just sit in the background and just keep a close eye on it with him, go through elements of training, and then frame up the support model through the DLP project, and then all phase and then post that, because we won't ever want to leave this building with George. Always operate it and always be there to help advance, because it will evolve. So we want to be part of that team and journey with him as he gets more familiar with KODE and wants to use more of the functionality that we've got. That's where the job's at, and we hope to get that all done in about 1 to 2 months.
So the rubber's really hitting the road.
So it's at the fun phase. Yeah, the fun phase of the job, where everyone's running around trying to get it all done properly, but get it done fast as well, because I know there's a partial handover that's been in place. So yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you as the audience, you guys taking the time to give us a before the finish line update on story here.
We'll get there. We'll come back in a couple of months and hear from George of how well it's settled in and operating, and then the benefits of the real tangible benefits that it's put some dollar values to it. Yeah.
I think it's always fun as well with technology projects like this. When we're doing this with level of integration, you get to this stage because, for years, trades have built up that kind of understanding of, what impacts other things. And so when everyone's climbing on top of each other a little bit at the final stretch, they kind of know. But when it comes to everything we're doing, they don't know yet. It's not, we haven't gone through that process 10 times to have that kind of intrinsic knowledge. And so you can get quite a few instances of unintended consequences. Are you seeing any of those on site, Justin?
Look, there's a few QR code readers that are being, installed here, there. Whoops, not there, here, there, please. A few cameras here, there. So look, we always adapt to that. You always have to, think on your feet really quickly. I think the mobile app integration is something that's coming through at the moment, where it's sort of catching us out a little bit, but we're working through it. But that's some of those things that you just got to think fast on your feet, turn around a solution, pull in the right team to get the right solution out, and then go get it implemented. But yeah, there's a, oops, we ran the wrong cable to here. We're now putting it over there. You got your processor drawing updates that you got to try and catch. But hey, building wants to operate, right? So all right, let's just, that's just construction. Right?
Yeah, everybody out there that's been on a construction project is just like shaking their head. They're walking their dog and they're shaking their head right now somewhere in the world.
Yeah, it happens here in Australia too. Don't worry.
Yep, yep. All right, cool. So let's end this conversation. Which I want to thank you guys again for giving us this inside peek. Let's end this with just if people were to if they're starting their construction process anywhere in the world, what would we tell them as far as the lessons learned that you guys have learned that you would tell them to implement, or what are the takeaways of this conversation that we've already sort of had here? Let's just throw them out. So who wants to go first?
I think understanding who's going to be using the building and how you're using it first, I suppose, is a pretty obvious one to kick off with. But like we mentioned earlier, then understanding that, not just understanding that, but then documenting and working backwards from that in terms of design and starting the process early with the construction company. So when you do get to this point, which is about to hand over, that you have thought of all the things that you're going to need, and those things are there for when you open the building. So getting onto it early, I suppose, to sum it up.
Totally. What else?
I would echo the same thing in terms of just having that strategy early days. I'd summarize it as like bringing operational thinking into the construction process. But I think a key thing for me from this is I think there was a conception, or I certainly had some conception that small buildings, it's just going to be too hard to do this, right? And this has been a kind of nexus for us in some ways because it was the first real like small building of this size that we've done. But it's not the last, right? Since then, we've gone on to do several more, right? And I'm really hoping that we can continue this journey with smaller buildings because, it's such a huge part of the market, and it'd be such a shame to leave them out of this whole technology expansion in the property space.
From my side, it's once a smart building platform is realized that can provide benefit and purpose, think of the functionality that a single platform like KODE can offer. We don't need to go to 3 or 4 systems to achieve all of the features that KODE can do, and being a SaaS model service can make it really cost competitive, right? That's, packaging of services and so forth when budgets are really tight is a way that the integrators can, align it all with functionality and cost. So, helping COMMSecurity with KODE at the moment is really, doing well in that space of being able to provide that level of service and process, but with the range of packages and features that the KODE platform can offer becomes attractive.
I think you'd make to Matt's point before, you can make a case it's just as important to have something like KODE and the smart building systems for a smaller building because your ongoing operational budget's smaller. The ability to sort of, CapEx spending down the track if we're going to need it to change things or fix things or replace things, like it's not as big as you're going to have in a big building or a big network of buildings. So having smart systems that, improve the longevity of the mech from the LEC and everything else in between and being able to run with a smaller team, I'd make that case for a small building just as much as a big one.
Yeah, and especially considering, even though, Gate 8 is kind of one special building, if you did have 4 or 5 buildings under your management, all with different systems, you've just gone from, 7 or 8 systems you're having to log into to potentially, 20 or 30 because you've got not that much repetition between your buildings. It's so much more scalable to be able to work to one platform.
And training of staff as well, so you can't shift staff from one building to another if they don't know each of those individual systems. So
fascinating. Any others before we close off?
The only other one for me would just be being ready for the journey on smaller buildings. So, a lot of people think smaller buildings, smaller involvement. But I guess the more you go down the building size chain and you get into builders, that just are not familiar, and with trade contractors that are really not familiar, your kind of requirement to go on the journey and your workload associated with that actually starts to increase again. So, it's understanding that to get this right, at least for now in the marketplace, you have to start putting kind of more effort in as you get to the smaller building sets.
Yeah, I mean, depending on where you're in the world right now, it doesn't matter the size of the contractor. You're probably still going to need to have quite a bit of education around here. We're all working together. We're pulling data from your system into this system, and we're closing down these silos, and like that sort of education. It doesn't feel like anywhere in the world gets to get skipped at this point from my vantage point. But maybe bigger buildings down by you guys, but you guys are, I think, ahead of most of the world in terms of the teamwork on a construction project for the bigger buildings. It seems like.
Yeah, and the detail I think that we go to, and I think that's one comment that Code's made with us, is that the level of detail that we have to take every single element of the job for, staying in tune with the specification by NDY and the user requirements by George, because we have such an early interaction, which then starts to set the tone of the expectations. We're lucky that we've got a platform like Code that we can adapt to all of that and not be so rigid. But the level of effort and the, you always get caught on that element of detail that you've missed. And with data, that can be a dot or a dash or a uppercase letter or something like that. And, we've seen it now on a few examples through this job where, that level of detail caught, and we've had to rally to pull back around and get it off and running. So, yeah, I think the open teamwork environment is critical to success. I think that is the number one message I take out of every project, and it doesn't just work within the building and the trades. It's actually the consultant and the client that is part of that team. And if you can break down those silos, and everyone's got their role to play, but if you can break down those silos as early as possible and bring everybody along that journey, I think you'll always get a better outcome.
Yeah, it's almost like people draw up the construction process as these like serial phases, one after the next, and you're handing things over like a baton at the Olympics. But it's really like what you guys have done is kind of walk through the whole thing together, which it's pretty awesome. So thank you guys for coming on the show. This has been awesome. We will check in, so this will get turned into a written case study. Brad on our team will follow up with you guys to get the final story in a few months before we turn it into the written version. And everyone can find this on all of their on our website, so they can find the written version in a few months. Once this goes live, we'll turn it into a more formal case study. So thank you guys for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Nice job with the project.
Okay, friends, thank you for listening to this episode. As we continue to grow our global community of changemakers, we need your help. For the next couple of months, we're challenging our listeners to share a link to their favorite Nexus episode on LinkedIn with a short post about why you listen. It would really, really help us out. Make sure to tag us in the post so we can see it. Have a good one.